Is this the year that Brian Kelly and LSU finally break through and make the college football playoff? Kelly is entering year 4 in Baton Rouge, has a 29-11 record. He's 3-0 in bowl games, but only has one SEC title appearance and no college football playoff appearances. He has the team to get them there this year, and it feels like it has to be the year because anything less than that is a major disappointment. And speaking of disappointment, look at last year. The Tigers came into the season with expectations of making the playoff, especially with it expanding to 12 teams. They got off to a strong start. Yeah, they lost in the opener to USC, which was an upset fashion, but then went on a tear. 6 straight wins, found themselves ranked 8th in the nation, and they lost 3 straight games, all by double digits, to Texas A&M, Alabama, and Florida. Completely fell out of the rankings before ultimately winning the last couple and winning their bowl game. So 9-4 last year, 8-4 in the regular season. Not good enough. It's not good enough. And again, this feels like a playoff or bust year for the Tigers. You take a look at the offense. They've got the offense to get them to the playoff, right? Because they have one of the best quarterbacks in the nation in Garrett Nussmeier. Threw for over 4,000 yards last year, 29 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. Definitely would like to see those interception numbers go down a little bit, and I believe they will. Definitely believe they will. They have their leading rusher, Caden Durham, returning 753 yards, 6 touchdowns last year. The wide receiver core is perfect for a guy like Garrett Nussmeier. Their leading receiver, Aaron Anderson, returns after posting nearly 900 yards last year. Barian Brown comes in from Kentucky. Not the best quarterback play in the world at Kentucky, and yet he still racked up over 1,400 reception yards the last 3 years with the Wildcats. Nick Anderson comes in from Oklahoma, and their tight end core looking pretty good. Bauer Sharp and Tradez Green. The biggest concern for LSU on offense is their offensive line. They lose 4 big-time offensive linemen, looking all to be stars in the NFL. This offensive line only gave up 15 sacks last year. Those numbers are probably going to go up a little bit. How quickly the new pieces on the offensive line gel is going to kind of dictate how great this offense can be. But again, they do have a great wide receiver core and one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. Defensively, 8 starters return for the Tigers on defense, and I really like this LSU defense. They gave up this 24.3 points per game, 364 yards per game. Definitely want to see that number go down a little bit, but I think they're loaded with tons of talent at all 3 levels. The defensive line anchored by 2 big transfers, Jack Pyburn coming in from Florida, and you've got Patrick Payton coming in at defensive end from Florida State, where he had 5 sacks with the Seminoles last year. Don't forget about Jacobian Guillory as well, kind of bulking up the interior defensive line. Their leading tackler, Whit Weeks, had 125 tackles last year, returns at linebacker for the Tigers, along, of course, with Harold Perkins at that star position, and the secondary looking really, really good. A couple big-time starters returning, like Ashton Stamps and Jordan Gilbert, but some big-time transfer portal additions, such as Mansour Delane from Virginia Tech was a second-team All-ACC selection, and then A.J. Halsey as well was a first-team Big 12 selection at Houston. So some returners in the secondary, some very experienced transfers coming in the secondary. Leading tackler returns to the linebacking core. Harold Perkins is a freak in nature. The defensive line looks good. This could be the year for LSU. It needs to be the year for LSU. You're going to learn a lot about the Tigers, though, in week 1. In one of the most anticipated games of opening weekend. I think all eyes, of course, will be on Texas, Ohio State early in the day, but all eyes will be on LSU and Clemson later in the day. This is maybe the game I'm most excited to watch. The battle for Death Valley, the Tiger Bowl, if you will, Clemson and LSU. The Tigers, get this, LSU has lost 5 straight season openers. That's kind of hard to believe. 5 years in a row, they have started 0-1, right? That's really kind of a hard thing to fathom. Granted, they've played some quality opponents in week 1. They're playing cupcake teams, but still. And I hate to say it, but I think it's going to be 6 straight years where they start 0-1. I just don't think they have enough to go on the road and beat this Clemson team who's really dang good. First off, let's talk about the quarterback battle. What a great battle between, to me, are the top 2 quarterbacks in the country. I got Cade Klubnik at number 1, and I've got Garrett Nussmeier at number 2. So that alone is going to be worth the price of admission. Then you've got the Clemson offense. They're loaded. Their top 3 pass catches return. They've got a strong offensive line. Klubnik's got that dual threat capability. They're going to be great. The defense is going to be maybe even better. 9 starters back on defense, including 5 of their top 7 tacklers. Factor in this is at Clemson, which, as we know, is not an easy place to play at all. This is a statement game for both of these programs. A massive resume game for both these programs because they both have playoff aspirations. But I think Clemson gets the better of LSU. Home field advantage going to play a very big role in that. They are 1-0, LSU 0-1, but don't freak out because to me the schedule lightens up a little bit. I know they're in the SEC. Life is tough, but it could be worse in the first couple months of the season because they're going to cruise past Louisiana Tech. They're 1-1. I think they're going to beat Florida. I know they lost to them 27-16 last year on the road, but look, in college football, there's a thing called momentum. There's a thing called, being mentally tough and being down on yourself and hungover and things like that. LSU was never the same after that beat down to A&M. They came into that game with playoff aspirations, 8th in the country, looking good, thought they could beat Texas A&M, who were still figuring out their quarterback issue with Marcel Reed, and they got just popped in the mouth, destroyed. Was it 38-23? Then they get destroyed on the ground against Alabama. Even if they had lost A&M and beaten Alabama, their hopes stay alive. Just embarrassed at home. Then they go on the road to Florida, who's starting to figure things out a little bit. LSU, I don't think was mentally there. I really don't. I think they were just kind of down on themselves, and Florida took advantage of it, winning by 11. Then the next week did the same against Ole Miss. So Florida definitely has some talent. But this year, LSU still going to be very much in the hunt. Still so early on in the year. Yes, Florida does return DJ Lagway if he can stay fully healthy. Yes, I really do like Florida's defense, but this game's in Death Valley. It's not an easy place to play. LSU does typically a very good job of defending their home field, and I just don't think that the Gators have enough to win this game on the road. I don't think Lagway can come in here and by himself torch this secondary through the air. LSU has also dropped at least 42 points in the last 3 home games against Florida. They're going to get this win. They're going to get revenge over the Gators. They're going to defend home field. It's just, to me, plain and simple. 2-1. 3-1 with a win against Southeastern. Then they go on the road to Ole Miss. The home team has won the last 5 games in this series. Home team has won the last 5. That streak ends now. LSU wins in Oxford. They won a thriller last year, 29-26 in overtime in Death Valley. But now you look at this. You could break it down category by category, position by position. LSU, to me, has the edge everywhere. They've got the edge at quarterback because Jackson Dart is now gone for Ole Miss. So I'm taking Garrett Nussmeier over Austin Simmons. I might even take this LSU wide receiver core over the Ole Miss wide receiver core, though that battle could be a little bit tough. The defense, certainly taking LSU there. 8 starters back for them compared to an Ole Miss team that only returned to 1 starter from last year's team, but 6 if you include the 5 transfers with starting experience that they bring in. But regardless, quarterback edge, LSU. Wide receiver edge, toss-up. Defensive edge, LSU. Home field advantage edge, sure, Ole Miss, but LSU can absolutely overcome that. To me, they are the much better team on both sides of the ball. The only thing they have to overcome is home field advantage in Oxford. They will do just that. The defense gives Austin Simmons some struggle, especially early on in the year, only a couple of weeks into the season. LSU is 4-1 with a big win over the Rebels, and they come into the bye week and take on South Carolina. Ooh, a revenge game for the Gamecocks. Look, a lot of LSU fans might not agree that it was in controversial fashion last year. They got the win in Columbia, 36-33. South Carolina fans still very, very bitter about that. LSU very fortunate to have survived that game in Columbia. Can you imagine how bad it would have been if they had started, 1-2, lose to USC, and then a couple weeks later lose to South Carolina? The sky would have been falling in Baton Rouge, no doubt about that. Look, if this game was in Columbia now, I might be picking South Carolina. I have a lot of faith in them. I know I'm not as high on them as others, but I do like Lenore Sellers quite a bit. I think their defense can be better than people realize. They've got, 2 of their top 3 pass catchers returning. The Gamecocks are going to throw everything they've got at LSU because they want revenge. This is a game that got circled on their calendar. But bottom line is they're not winning in Death Valley. They're just not. So again, if it was in Columbia, I might pick South Carolina, but you've got LSU coming off a week of rest. You've got home field advantage. It's homecoming for LSU as well. Their homecoming game against the Gamecocks. I think the defense does a much better job of containing Lenore Sellers. I think they force him to stay in the pocket. They don't allow him to use his dual threat capabilities. I don't think he's going to be able to deliver in this environment. LSU gets a big, big win over South Carolina, spoils their opportunity for revenge. They are 5-1. They'll be 6-1 with a win at Vanderbilt, who they only beat by 7 last year, but they held that Vanderbilt offense to 308 yards last year, only 122 rushing yards. Again, it's kind of a similar thing with South Carolina. Can Diego Pavia do it all by himself? He tried last year and helped lead Vanderbilt to a winning season. I don't think he can do it again now, even though they do have home field advantage, which really isn't much for Vanderbilt. So they win that game. They're 6-1. Then A&M. Now it's a revenge game for LSU. The revenge tour for LSU starts now. If they want to get back to the playoff, their next 2 games are against teams that they lost to last year, A&M and Alabama. They've already gotten revenge over Florida. Can they complete the trifecta? Well, I do think they'll get at least 2, because I think they're going to beat A&M. Texas A&M has not won in Death Valley since 1994. Again, the Tigers lost 38-23 in College Station last year. with a horrendous second half, handful of turnovers. It was just a rough game to watch for LSU. Garrett Nussmeier not having the best day. Yes, the A&M team is good. They finally have competent quarterback play in Marcel Reed. They figured that out as the year went on. They got a trio of running backs that are dangerous, and their defense can be really stingy. I think this game's actually pretty close. I don't think LSU's just going to mop the floor with the Aggies. But at home, revenge on their mind. Once again, I think owning the offensive advantage in this game, LSU does, and a defense I think can match Texas A&M's, because that's how high I am on LSU's defense. I don't see them losing this game at home. I just don't see them doing it. I think kind of similar to the strategy against South Carolina, the strategy against Vanderbilt, if LSU can contain Marcel Reed and force him to deliver this game solely through the air, don't allow him to pick up some first downs with his legs, don't allow him to extend plays with his legs. If you contain him to the pocket, you win this game. And luckily for them, they're going to be facing two teams in a row that have dual threat quarterbacks. They're going to be very prepared for A&M now. They get that win. They're 7-1. So once again, in a great spot, just like they were last year. But will they falter down the stretch like last year, or will this year be different? Coming out of the bye, they take on Alabama. That's going to be a loss. I know plenty of LSU fans may disagree, but history's not on your side, guys. You're 2-12 against Alabama since 2012. 2-12 against Alabama since 2012. And the only win in Tuscaloosa you've had during that time was with one of the best college football teams of all time, of course, led by Joe Burrow. So not only have they not fared well against Alabama, they haven't not fared well against Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Last year, at home, they lost 42-13 to the Crimson Tide, allowing 311 rushing yards. They were torched on the ground. They were more specifically torched by Jalen Milroe. Now, he's gone. So that's a bright spot for LSU. Maybe that actually gives them a chance in this game, that now that Jalen Milroe's gone. But the weapons that Alabama had last year, the weapons that they had are not gone. Jam Miller is back at running back. Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, both back at wide receiver. Strong offensive line. I think Ty Simpson could be the real deal at quarterback, and that Alabama defense is going to be even stronger than it was last year. No doubt about it. So all that being said, plus home field advantage for Alabama, they're going to get the win here. LSU is 7-2, most likely needing to win out if they want to go to the college football playoff. I do think they will cruise past Arkansas. They destroyed the Razorbacks in Fayetteville last year by 24 points. Held Arkansas to 278 yards and only 38 rushing yards. So a dominant defensive performance. And once again, I don't think Arkansas has the offense, nor the defensive line, I should add, to do anything in Death Valley. So they should win that with ease. They will cruise past Western Kentucky with ease. They are 9-2, heading into the season finale at Oklahoma for their first ever trip to Norman. First ever trip. God, the excitement surrounding this game. Oklahoma could be a playoff team or in contention at this point. LSU is clearly in contention at this point. So much on the line in this game in the season finale. And I look at Oklahoma, and everybody looks at them on paper and goes, oh, they weren't good last year, they're not going to be good this year. Well, you have to look at the additions they've added. They added John Mateer, the dangerous dual-threat quarterback who by himself would have owned one of the best offenses in the country. Like, he was putting up over, I think, close to 400 yards per game by himself at Washington State last year, which would have ranked as one of the best offenses in the country alone. So John Mateer is in. Jaden Ott is in as one of the most underrated running backs in the country. Oklahoma, in theory, will have a healthy core of wide receivers, something they did not have at all last year. They have 8 starters back on defense. It is senior day for the Sooners. LSU, yes, did win by 20 points last year, 37-17 in Baton Rouge, but I think they fall short now. That's how much faith I have in this Oklahoma team. Their defense is the real deal. They have a great defensive line, too. 21 of their 35 sacks returned from last year. I think they could exploit this LSU offensive line a little bit, put Garrett Nussmeier under quite a bit of pressure. That secondary is very underrated as well. Will Garrett Nussmeier and these wide receivers be able to move the ball effectively enough to get the win here? And will the LSU defense, as good as they're going to be, and I do have a lot of faith in them, can they contain John Mateer? We think they can do it against Sellers. We think they can do it against Pavia and Reed. Can they do it now against John Mateer, who might be the best mobile quarterback of those 3 that we just mentioned? A lot on the line here, but factor in the home field advantage that the Sooners have, and it is a real one. I think LSU falls just short. We've seen this time and time again. When their backs are against the wall, LSU needing the clutch win, they fall short. 2022, they had playoff hopes. They lost on the road to A&M when they shouldn't have. Last year, we're looking good. Collapsed down the stretch with 3 straight losses. This year, need a win to go. They fall just short. Brian Kelly, we know, has struggled in the big games. This is a big game. I think he fails to complete it again. LSU goes 9-3, 6-2 in conference play. probably not good enough to get into the playoff. We've seen, again, like last year, 3-loss teams arguing for their spot. The only losses coming on the road to Clemson, on the road to Bama, on the road to Oklahoma. None of them are bad losses. I think LSU's competitive in all of them, but I'm not sure it's going to be good enough to get them into the playoff with 3 losses. That Oklahoma game is going to loom large. Really, if they can just win any of the games we have them pegged to lose, they will go to the playoff. But for us right now, they fall just short. 9-3 again. It will be the 4th straight season under Brian Kelly that the Tigers win at least 9 games. They'll have a shot at 10 in their bowl game, but that's not good enough. The talent is there. The playoff expansion is there. There really is no reason LSU should miss the college football playoff, but I'm afraid they will do it again under Brian Kelly, making you wonder, despite the success, despite racking up so many wins, how much longer will they put up with him in Baton Rouge? That is the million-dollar question. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our expert picks, home to our weekly newsletters, home to tons of exclusive content there to help you get through this offseason. Do not miss out on it. Become a member of our GE Nation today. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.